G'day guys and welcome to Dog Shadow Gaming, the channel where we live to game and game to live. As always, I'm Belth, and today we're going to look at some 1v1 PvP action for Battlefleet Gothic Armada 2 with the Drukhari faction. Now in this episode I hope to cover just some tips, hints, strategies. We talk about escort use, we talk about mistakes that you can make as a Drukhari player, and we also talk about some hard counters for Drukhari. I'm going to show you my first three games, which are, I won't tell you, but they are successful. And then I'm going to show you where I make a lot of mistakes. We also get some good Necron play in here as well. So stay tuned guys, go get your popcorn, your drinks, your chockies, your chips, your energy drinks, whatever you need. Strap in, and I will be right back after this. Basically what I'm going to do here guys is we're going to cast some of my Drukhari 1v1 PvP ranked play from the other day. I haven't done a cast over myself before, so I apologize if I'm not amazing at it, but I thought I'd give it a go. It's much easier to cast what you're doing and why you're doing it when you're not in the middle of playing a real-time strategy game and you're trying to concentrate on it. So hopefully this is enjoyable guys. This is my Drukhari play. I'm going to talk a little bit about both the Drukhari strengths and weaknesses, and I'm really going to talk about countering them. Because a lot of people, I'm still hearing a lot of people talking about how they're OP and they're this and they're that and they're so hard to play against and blah blah blah. They're honestly not. And most of the time when I hear people complaining about them, it's usually because they either haven't played them themselves, or they still haven't learned how to play the game properly. And that's really the only two reasons, because they can be countered as long as you're not silly. And I'll explain some of that and more here. So our first match here is against Nurofen 84, and he's playing as the Corsairs. So this is an interesting match, and you'll see that I'm running a Torp build here, and this is the same build I run for all of them. I'm running the Torp cruisers with the, Torp battleships with the, what are they called? I think they're called Falling Moon, potentially? I can't remember, my apologies guys. But I think it's Falling Moon, and then I'm just running some standard escorts here. Now, I run 3 escorts and 3 Falling Moons with torpedoes. This is a torpedo build. It's really the only one I use. I did play around with escort build, sorry, not escort builds, squadron sort of carrier builds. I've played around with just more straight up firepower builds with the Rose. I honestly don't like them. I feel like that the Drukhari are an ambush-centered and centric faction. You know, the stealth mechanic, even their lore. The game has been built off the tabletop, and their lore is that they appear out of nowhere, they hit hard, they hit fast, and then they get out of there. They're meant to be your rogue. This is what they are. They are the rogue of the game. They have the stealth, they're high crit, high damage, they're high risk, high reward characters, you know? And as always, with a high risk, high reward stealth ambush character, if you pull off the initial ambush, you look like a god. And like you make it look easy. But if you stuff it up, and you're going to see that because I'm going to show 3 wins and then 1 loss, yeah? If you stuff it up, if you do something wrong, they're highly punishing. Because they're, as always with the rogue, they are, you know, they're wet tissue, you know. When you get next to them or near them and they've lost their crit chance and their stealth, they're wet tissue. They go down very, very quickly. And this is, I mean, whether you're playing a fantasy WoW game or, you know, role-playing or whatever, this is exactly how they play and how you counter them. And so you got to think of it from that perspective, yeah? So anyone who's sulking about, okay, they get stealth and I got owned by Drukhari time and time again, guys, if you keep getting owned by the Drukhari, you're doing something wrong. Yeah, because half the factions in the game have some form of stealth. Even the ones that aren't centrically around stealth have like cruiser spam, which all has a mission and stealth. So even the Space Marines have stealth, for God's sakes. So you've got to be using escorts, guys, and map awareness. Map awareness is key. No matter who you're playing, even if you're playing the Orcs, map awareness is still key. So here, we bait him out with an escort. And then I get quite a bit of damage in on one of his ships straight off the bat. Now, what you'll notice here is no escorts. He hasn't brought any escorts. Massive, 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 massive mistake straight away. It doesn't matter whether you know who you're playing or not. Always have an escort, at least one. Map awareness, as I said before, is key, and you can't get really good... Well, look, if you're not bringing an escort, you better be bringing some probes, at very least. And probes are not as good as a moving escort that has great detection range, and in most cases, other than Tyranids, it has actual, echo sensor. You've got a ping. As soon as you have a couple escorts, well, you've massively disadvantaged that Drukhari player. They've got to try and take out your escorts to get their main strength, which is their ability to hide from you. Here's another thing. I just shot at his flagship. He didn't even notice, right? Now, he goes after this escort, and I'm baiting him out here, right? He's trying to, for some reason, deny the point, which is fine. But he's chasing down an escort, yeah? Quite often people get a little bit bloodlusty and they chase down escorts, and this can lead to ambushes like micro warp jumps. I mean, if you've ever had a battleship like just pull in on your flag because you're trying to take down an escort and they've just zipped in there with a micro warp and then knocked you to pieces. Well, again, bloodlust. You got to be a bit careful. So what I did there was I threw down the black warp thing. I can't remember what it's called, micro warp or black warp, and the stasis bomb to basically zone him to the east and making him move south. Yeah, this allows me to get around behind him. You'll notice that I have targeted his engines here, and I'm setting up for the ambush. Again, this is a guerrilla warfare faction that has ambush tactics. Now, right now, he didn't freak out, but what he should have done is pulled out. He saw the missiles incoming, and he should have pulled out here.
You have seized
right?
a strategic area.
If he had used his about face and pulled out to the west, east, and south, and just spread and then pulled back, or just pulled south even out of the mess, then I wouldn't have been able to get as much damage as I did. Yeah. Now I pull around here, I target the ship closest to me. Also, it's the one with the most damage, and we're going to take it out pretty quickly. I'm threading the needle through here, and I'm going to use my stasis to basically capture his flag. I know that he's used his what do you call it? His afterburn or his burn to get out of that. And so now I get to capture him. Yeah. And that was what I was waiting for. Yeah. I had used the warp to make him freak out, which he did, and he had to get out, right? Although, to be honest with you, after the patch, the black warp or whatever it is, I can't remember what it's called, sorry guys, isn't as strong as it used to be. So he could have just pulled out. And that's it, yeah? So a couple of mistakes there. First and foremost, no escorts. I cannot tell you how silly it is to not... I can't tell you enough, yeah? I was playing with it with somebody the other day, and he's fairly new, and so he was making the mistake, and everyone's made this mistake, guys, so I'm not bagging anybody, I'm just saying, don't, listen to what I'm telling you, at least one escort. No matter what your fleet is, you must have escorts, yeah? Even more so if you plan to take one of the big battleships, you've got to have, if you're taking the Space Marine battleship, you must have an escort, yeah? Map awareness is key. Think about it from it doesn't matter, think about it from any perspective you like. You'd say Total War, anything, chess, whatever, they have pawns for a reason. Yeah, you've got to be able to use them. And in this next match, you'll see basically in that match you saw what not having an escort basically enabled me to do. I was able to play to my faction strengths in the maximum. I got to continuously ambush him because I had all the map awareness. I knew exactly where he was. He didn't know where I was. I got to play him. I got to ambush him, and then I got to completely take control of the situation and make him play to what I wanted to. Right from the start there, I made him move south. I baited him in south. I blocked him from moving west, which allowed me to move west and get around him. Yeah, move to his right and get around him and get behind him. And then because he still didn't have map awareness with any escorts or any probes, I was able to then just, you know, ambush and then ambush again. So that's really where it came from. In this match, you're going to see how I use my escorts a little bit to screen my larger ships, my battleships, to use them as misdirection, and also to use them as points capping. You've got to think of the game, guys, as in there's two layers to this game. Yeah, there is the cruiser clash part where you're straight up fighting the other faction's cruisers or their ships. Yeah, and then there's the more subtle points game, which is a little bit more like chess. Yeah. The cruiser clash is, you know, understanding your skills, your micro. Really, it's about micro and your skills and understanding the strengths and weaknesses of each faction. That's the cruiser clash, which is a game in and of itself. But the points adds almost a chess amount of strategy to it, where you've got to be constantly, while you're thinking about those counters, those balances and counters, just like Total War, right? Then you've got the chess game that is overlaid on that of the points, which is what makes the game so fun, yeah? You can't get rid of the points, because if you do, it is going to be a boring game, because every stealth faction then can never be brought to bear. Here's the thing, if you're fighting a stealth faction, you want the points. The first thing you want to do, and one of the first things I do as soon as I get into every single map, is look for the triangle. Yeah? There's only 5 points, guys. So someone's always got to control 3, and they have they're at the advantage, man. They're earning more points. It's that simple, yeah? So if you can control a triangle of 3 points, you got the game, yeah? If you control it the whole time, even if you lose the battle, as long as you've controlled 3 for the majority of the match, more than likely, you're going to win it. I mean, the amount of times I've won with nothing left but an escort because I controlled the points while I was having the battle, yeah, is amazing. So don't just give up on the points and go for the cruiser clash unless you are 100% certain you can destroy them all. And you'd want to really know everything he's got on the field before you do that. All right, so here I kind of bait them in. He starts attacking my escort. So he's given himself away immediately. As soon as he attacks the escort, he's now giving himself away, right? I know where he is. I know what he's, most of what his units are. He does surprise me here by having another 3 units down the bottom. I don't know about this build. I mean, he's brung lots of escorts, and this does give him a lot of map mobility, which is really good for the Eldar factions. Here is where he makes a mistake. When you're fighting another Eldar, Drukhari versus Drukhari or Eldar versus Eldar, you got to make the decision of, okay, what kind of fleet has he brung? Now here again, I use the warp, so he has to face check me. He can't go south, he's got to come in on me, and he does. But straight away, after face checking me, I get the torpedoes at close range on his flag. Now I did make the mistake, left and right, I should have turned them. If I had got those other torpedo hits in, this would have been over even quicker, yeah? I would have taken out his flag. So they were 2 wasted torpedoes. Here though, he thinks I'm gonna run. I don't, yeah? He's after my flag, he's gonna try and take it down. This is a good tactic, but as you can see, I've got everyone on brace for impact, so I'm taking he's on brace for impact too, to be fair, so, but the whole time I'm getting the shots in where he's not, yeah? And I'm shooting down his flag, well, he's not. Now he's brung in his little escorts. What he should have probably been doing here is either putting them all on brace for impact and then charging me. I'm gonna get another torpedo hit point blank on this guy. No? Oh, it shoots past this way. But basically he's not doing bugger all to me, and I'm shooting him down. So I'm now left. You've got a mass mutiny there. So he's lost a lot of those troops. He's pulled them back, which is cool, but I'm gonna charge and take him out. A lot of people forget that, mate, you can take out an escort very quickly by charging him with little to no impact on your ship if you've got like a battleship or a cruiser. Now here is where he does make a mistake, yeah? Okay, he lost the main battle there, but he has now taken out the last of my escorts. Right, so I have no escorts. The only ship I've got on the map right now is 1 battleship. Now, okay, it's still a battleship. He's got about 5 escorts left. He's not going to win a front-on confrontation with me. He's just not going to. So what he should have done here is played the points. Yeah? There's no point doing a cruiser clash at this time. He can still win it. He's got 2 points. I've got 2 points. I'm capping the 3rd point. Yeah? Whoop-de-doo. You've got 5. Split them into 2. This is his mistake. I don't know why he did this. He must have been trying to get he must have been trying to mutiny me because he knew that my flag was down, right? And here, this is very clever. He actually does try to get a scuttle on me, which may have even dropped my morale. But here I use my morale boost, and now I'm back up. I'm okay. Yeah, but the problem there is if he'd used those 3 to cap some more points, maybe sneak around to the right there and go down south, or sneak around to the left and go south, he could have capped the other 2 points while I was sitting here, and I would have had to have chased him. Now, it would have been hard for me to catch him, to be honest with you. So he could have won this on the points. He could have, like, we were both fairly even. If you have a look at the score, I'm not above him, yeah, too much. But for some reason, he moves in to do this, yeah. So he just gave the match. He didn't need to lose that at all. I know some players are of the opinion, well, it's over. It's not over till the fat lady sings, yeah? So, if you're even Stevens in the points and you've got more map mobility, there's a good chance you could win that. I was thinking the whole time, shit, he's got all these escorts. I'm in trouble, yeah? I couldn't believe that he charged me. He gave me the match. He just handed it to me. So, yeah, anyway, something to think about. Again, misuse of escorts. So that wasn't, unfortunately, the match where I used my escorts really well. But misuse of his escorts in that one. Escorts. So some of the tactics for the Drukhari, it's really simple. You need to be controlling the map. You need to be controlling the engagements. You are paper thin, yeah? You do damage. You do have got high crit. This is true. You do put out a lot of damage, especially if you're running the Torp build. You can do some really big crit damage. Think, backstab rogue. That's what you are, yeah? And you should play it like a backstab rogue. You are not about, if you're going to face check someone, you better know you're going to come out the other end of that, you know what I mean? And this is why I like the Torp build, because it does allow me to face check if I need to, and usually win the battle, yeah? Because a lot of people don't play it, and so a lot of people aren't aware of it. But yes, if you can wait to use those Torps when you want to. Now, a good player is going to know you're using Torps because the shape of the falling moon or whatever it is different than the rose. So they're going to know straight away that you've got Torps. So you should be looking for that. Falling moon looks a little bit bigger. The nose of it is very different. You see how mine has a point? The other one has sort of like, the rose has like, it's like a fork almost, or sort of a forky type. 2-prong sort of front end. So as soon as you're seeing this, there's a good chance that these are Torp Eldar ships for people who don't play them. Although I highly recommend you actually go and play them so you know how to counter them. Now here you're going to see me jump into 2 maps. We're fighting the Tyranids here, and you're gonna see me change my tactics here. I'm going to be keeping my escorts with my ships. Now here's the thing. As a Drukhari player and I'm playing a Tyranid, I don't want the Tyranid to get anywhere close to me. Who gives a shit if he's whining and sooking about you being a coward and not getting anywhere near him? He's a stealth player and you're a stealth player. The difference here is that you can re-stealth, he can't. Unless he gets into an asteroid field and stops, which will re-stealth him. I think maybe even for gas clouds. But up until that point, as soon as you see him, that's it. He's you can see him, yeah? I think they can re-stealth if they get into a spore field as well, and they need to sit for a little bit and then they will re-stealth. I'm not 100% on that one. I've only just started playing the Tyranids properly for, just recently. So I'm keeping my escorts with me, and if I'm not keeping them with me, I'm sending them in front of me to give me map awareness, yeah? So he won't get that far ahead of me that I can't use him as a map awareness. He's going to come up here and try and steal this point. More importantly, even if he doesn't steal the point, it'll give me some map awareness in front of me. So I'm using him as I'm using the escorts as frontline screeners. And deterrence, mate. If they find the escort, great, they found the escort, but they haven't found the main ship, yeah? If he wastes his jump, because the Tyranids have a jump that has, I think it's 40 second now, I think it's been reduced, 40 or whatever second. Basically, that's their jump on you, or whatever you call it, their boost on you. If he does that onto an escort, fantastic. He's just wasted it. I can shoot with impunity. I've got 40 seconds to just take him out and then get out of there, yeah? You want to be keeping it around, if at all possible, until you're confident of the victory, you want to be keeping it around a 9,000 unit range difference between them. Because that jump ability isn't quite going to hit you at 9,000, and if you're quick, you can about face and boost out. Now, one of the big things about the Drukhari, and this is, don't engage, and you'll see later in the fourth of my plays where I engage without knowing where my boosters are. Remember, if you don't have mobility and you're Drukhari, you are knackered. You're gone. You're up, shit creek without a paddle, so to say, yeah? So never engage unless you know that you've got a healthy boost gauge. You've got your about face and you've got your boost and it's ready to go because you are going to need them. Drukhari move in, they attack, they about face and they get out. Yeah, that's how it works. Now, to be honest with you, you're going to be on reload stats almost all the time. Is tracking sense good? Yes, if you are trying to take out specific targets, like if you're concentrating on a specific thing, then it is good. But the problem is that by going into it, you are foregoing your mobility a lot with the reload, yeah? You might not think the 20 or 25% extra or quicker boost gauge is that important, but for a faction that needs to constantly be moving to have stealth up and also cannot afford to be caught at all, that boost gauge is, it's there or it's death, yeah? So never engage until you know you've got your boost gauge ready to get out, yeah? Because inevitably you are going to need to get out once they get close enough. So something else here, guys, if you're using units and you have fighters or it's a carrier type unit, think really carefully on two things. Map awareness is key. Even if they can't see you, if you're capping a point, they know something's there, yeah? Even if they can't see you, depending on the faction, I think the lowest thing that can send out fighters, I think, except for the Imperial, is a cruiser, I think. Don't quote me on that, but most factions cannot produce fighters in anything lower than a cruiser, except the Imperial, who can do it in a light cruiser and potentially Chaos. I'm not 100% on that. There are some that I know can, but most cannot, right? So as soon as you're starting to see fighters, or you start spamming out fighters, well, guess what? Everyone on the map can see fighters. So, there's at least a cruiser somewhere there. Now here you see me, I'm keeping my main units behind my escort. You see how there's layering there? If he jumps on my escort, great. He's just used his jump. I can shoot him with impunity. But I'm using my escorts to cap points, but I'm keeping my main line, my attackers, behind. So if he does jump on them, whatever, who cares, yeah? I also now get to be able to mark and ping him, and there's nothing he can do about it, yeah? So I'm using them both as awareness, as bait, and as screens for my main units, yeah? They're still stealth. He can see my, here I'm using them as bait. He's chasing them down, great, whatever. I've still got one that's gonna sit over there and hide and come back when he's ready. So he's just going to come down here and try and steal this point. And now he's spread. Now this is something else you really, really don't want to do when you're fighting the Drukhari. Try to keep your ships together, yeah? Remember, you're more than likely, unless you are playing another Eldar species or faction, you are going to have more ships than he does, yeah? And if you, right now, right, I'm just sort of sitting there firing in. I'm not moving, I'm just sitting firing. I don't want to get too much closer because I know he can jump, as he's just done, right? So I'm gonna get out here. Now, something I didn't see him do, maybe he did do it, but I didn't see him do it, is he didn't board me, which is what he definitely should have done. He should have been boarding there. You know, boarding is hugely detrimental to the Drukhari. He could have taken out my engines, he could have done many things, but he didn't.
We shall slay them all. At the engines.
The other thing is, he's separated his flagship and put it with the smaller of the forces. If you're going to have your flagship running with your forces, it should either be well behind them, or it should be with the strength of them just behind them. Yeah, he's now separated, and this is one of the worst things you can do with the Drukhari, because they're like wolves, right? That's basically what they are. They're like wolves. They want to separate you from the herd, yeah, because as soon as they do, they're just going to pick on you. Yeah.
The enemy has seized a strategic area.
And right now you're going to see how I double team him. You know, he's chasing one, and while he's chasing one, I'm just sort of running away and kiting him, and the other will start shooting him. All right, so then he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. He's getting attacked from both sides. It's his flagship, and once the flagship goes down for, you know, this is the inbuilt crux of both the Orcs and the Tyranids. These are the two boarding factions outside of the Space Marines. Which is honestly why it makes the Space Marines so OP, because they just don't have any morale issues at all. But the Tyranids, once they lose this guy, they're going to take massive morale issues. Now he misses that charge, which is unfortunate. Tyranid charges can be a little bit of pain in the bum to get sometimes. Experienced Tyranid players will get it almost every time, but when you first start, they can be very difficult to get. If he got that, he probably would have got the kill. The other thing he didn't do is he hasn't put that Tyranid on 0 engagement stance. You'll notice that it was actually a charger. You know the difference between that with the Tyranids because they've got kind of like the mouth on the front of them, the chompy sort of teeth, like he's got with all these guys. So these are all charges, which means they take 0 damage from frontal charges. You don't even have to put them on brace for impact, yeah? If you're attacking from the front and you charge, you won't take any damage from that charge. So what you can do with these guys is once you get in close, and he could have ended this really quickly 3 or 4 times here, because I wasn't playing that amazingly, yeah? I wasn't staying away as much as I should have. He could have put them all on 0. What this does, and then auto-engage, right? What this does is it means that they will constantly seek to close and actually basically munch, you know, they'll try to ram everything. So if he'd done that, instead of moving left, he was close enough, he could have just munched on the side of my ship and caught me there. Which I would have then got caught up in it, and I wouldn't have been able to get away, and he could have slowly munched away at me until I had the boost to get out of there. So that's the second issue that he's had here. He hasn't used the strengths of the Tyranids properly to munch on me. And really punished me for my mistakes, because I made plenty of mistakes in this battle, like tons of them. This was just unfortunate. He's he's lost his flag now, and so just like the Orcs, once the flag goes down for the Tyranids, they are very susceptible to morale loss, like very, very susceptible. So, I mean, almost every faction is susceptible to morale loss once that flag goes down. But the ones that are really susceptible to it are Tyranids and Orcs. The Drukhari are also very susceptible to it. If you can take down that flag, they have a minus to their bravery pretty badly. Like Orcs have a massive, I think Orcs are like 75. I think Drukhari are about 50%. I'm not really sure what the Tyranids are. But, you know, I've lost many a match to losing my flag. So something to think about there. But so, again, we show the usefulness of having a front line, a mid line, and a back line, and using layers in your strategy, yeah? Use your escorts. You know, even if they die, that's okay, but use them for map awareness as much as humanly possible. For God's sakes, don't bring a fleet without escorts. I cannot stress this enough. Right? And, you know, there's a really good video that Airsick Hydra has done on escort usage, and he says very similar things, and I have to agree with everything he says in it. Go and check it out, guys. It's quite good, and he talks about escorts a lot. I mean, I know I have here too. So by both sort of talking about the mistakes the Tyranid player made and the mistakes that I made, you start to see where the strengths and the weaknesses of the Drukhari are. And I'm not a master player by any chance. You know, I find that in this game, you've got to constantly play the one faction quite a lot to really, really get good at them, because a lot of the game is micromanagement. Is it as full-on micro as, say, Total War? Yes and no. No, it's not as flat-out micromanagement based as Total War, I wouldn't say, depending on the faction you play. Now, the Drukhari and the Eldars are probably the highest macro because of their need to constantly be moving. As soon as you stop moving with the Drukhari, your shield or your cloak immediately drops. Yeah, so you're only cloaked while you're moving. So this is something that you've got to be aware of. And so using auto engage and setting attack distances is really important, you know, with them. Now this is a good one to end the this episode on, or this video on. This is a really good one. I lose, and you're probably thinking, Belth, why are you why are you ending your video on a loss? I've won the first 3, yeah? I want to show you, I hadn't played in a while. I sort of jumped back on, and these were my first 1v1s in a long time. So this isn't great gameplay always, guys. So as we're just talking about strengths, weaknesses, counters, and some important parts. So in this one, you're going to see me make a lot of mistakes, yeah? I make a lot of mistakes in this, and the player punishes me every time I make these mistakes. And this is also what I want you to see, whether you're watching this to be better at countering Drukhari or watching it to be better at playing Drukhari. Either way, you'll see the mistakes here and I'll point them out to you. Here I take a little bit of a different stance. I put my flag with my main line on the right there, and I sort of have a little escort force here just for sneaking around, and but I don't just leave the 2. I've kept them in groups of 3, right? So straight away on the map here, you can see that I have a slight advantage here, is that I have the triangle. If you have a look on the minimap, I've got the triangle. I'm gonna get the early advantage on the points, which is fantastic. I've also got some really good asteroids that I can hide in, as again, I always take the first ability for the Drukhari to be able to move through asteroids and use them as hiding and maneuvering and escaping. I cannot stress enough, guys, that I never, ever play any of the Eldar factions without taking that ability. It is absolutely crucial. The amount of times it has won a match for me by being able to hide an asteroid or escape through an asteroid. Mobility is key with all of the Eldar race, regardless of what faction you're playing, or sub-faction or whatever else. You must have mobility. It's the name of the game for these guys. They've got to constantly be moving. It's float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. That's exactly the gameplay here. It's ambush tactics. So having that ability to be able to do exactly what I'm doing here is really, really important. The second one that you use is up to you. Now, I tend to use crystal lenses with my guys a lot, based on the fact that I want to drop shields and get into the meat and potatoes of my opponent fairly quickly, try and get into their subsystems, slow them down. If I can slow them down even more, then I'm in for a win, yeah? Especially with Necrons, you really want to focus and target their engines. If they can't jump in on you, then you can kill them with impunity. Now this is where the first mistake I don't make here. I should have pulled back while he was visible, targeted all of his engines straight away. Should have done that, yeah? Then I could have gotten a lucky hit anywhere, and one lucky crit, and their engines are down, yeah? And they can't get out. Now what he does really cleverly here, now something I also do here, is I don't get all my escorts out quick enough, yeah? He manages to take a lot of my escorts, which pulls my maneuvering down. Now my first salvo of torpedoes here is really good, and I pull my ship out. So I get a great exchange there, yeah? He wastes a lot of that star pulse there. It doesn't even touch me. And I'm thinking, great engagement, great first engagement, and then boom, look at him, all gone. Amazing. I just blew my mind. I was like, oh, you bastard. And what he's got here, he's got a really interesting build. He's got the 3, I think they're scythes or tombs, right? And then he's got like, I think it's a Scarab or whatever you call it, one of the smaller, cheaper ones, sitting in the gas cloud up there as his flag. And he's using mass recall. So this is a Necron player that's played a bit. He's opened up all their abilities. It is one of the reasons I think that you should never, I really don't agree with players having to slowly unlock all the skills, because it puts players that are already probably pretty good at an even bigger advantage. So it creates an even bigger skill gap between a new player and an experienced player. It's no longer just about that they're more experienced and they know tricks, tactics, and all this sort of stuff. They actually have abilities that massively give them an advantage over that other player, which I think makes it unfair for other players. Yeah, I really, and I don't think it helps to encourage new players to get into the game, because if you come up against somebody who has abilities that you can't counter, like micro warp jump should be at the start of every, it's probably the most effective skill or ability that you can use almost any fleet, and it massively increases your chances of winning. So not only when you come up against a lesser player are you more skilled than them, which gives you an advantage, but then you've got an ability that also tops off giving you another skill that's more advantage. Now you might say, okay, Belth, yeah, but the whole point is that the system works so that you're not really playing, you know, if you're an adamantium, you'll be playing other adamantiums. True, but the game currently doesn't have, and may never have, the player base where you're always going to be playing adamantium. You know, I know quite often when I'm matched up with the bronze, I might get 2 other bronze players playing against me. They're not going to have the skills that I have. And so that's why I don't believe that it's fair that players should get advantages like that just because they've been playing a little bit longer. Sure, you know, character portraits, whatever, all those other things. But if you're talking about skills like this one that I'm using here, it gives such a massive advantage. It's just unnecessary. And really, if you want to try and make competition fair, they should start on an equal basis with nothing other than skills. Yeah? What you know as a skilled player should be your advantage, because you've played a lot and you've built up the skills and you know the factions, and that's a skill mechanic, not an ability mechanic, which I don't think is fair. Anyway, that's my rant. I don't think it's fair that you should have abilities other people don't have, because that gives you an advantage that's not based on skill level. It's based on just simple, you've played a bit longer, which really isn't fair. I know things like LoL do it, but they're very, very small. They're not abilities, they're slight increases to stats, and they're very, very slight. Do they make a difference? Yes, they do, but it's only very minimal. And I think that would have been a better way to do it, rather than, you know, key skills or key abilities that can really change a game. Now, he's used that he's using what's called mass recall with the Necrons. That's what he did in the first there. So he foiled my ambush. I managed to only get one good torpedo hit. He pulled out before my other torpedoes hit his ship. If they had hit him, we might have had a different game here, but he didn't. And he's very cleverly sort of zoning me here. I'm very aware that he can jump in on me. So I'm trying to keep out, and what I probably could have done here, I'm also trying to use my escort to sneak up the back there and find his flag. What probably would have been a lot more intelligent for me to do here is to pull around down south and then pull all the way down left, yeah? Very clever here. He's using, you notice how he constantly using his fighters here to give him map awareness, right? This was silly. I move back around and go for the engage. I'm trying to get the ambush, but he knows where I am and he knows what I'm doing because he's got those fighters everywhere. And you'll notice that he uses the fighters to give him this amazing map awareness on me, and he counters my biggest strength, which is my ability to hide. Yeah? He's got the fighters running all over the place. He knows exactly where I am. My biggest advantage is now null and void. Now, I'm trying to trap him here, yeah? But he's going to mass recall out here again before I can do any massive damage. I don't have more torpedoes because I've used them. So again, here I made mistakes, yeah? I used the torpedoes before he'd done his jump. If I'd waited for him to do his jump and then use the torpedoes, that exchange would have been a lot different, yeah? It was silly. I knew, even when I pressed the button, I went, he's just going to jump out of that on top of me. That was so dumb. Yeah, I knew I'd made the mistake. You wait until the Necrons have made their jump and then you're all in on them, yeah? If you're gonna do that. So here I'm like, okay, he's pulled out again. I need to go and take this point. He's taking the point down south, which I haven't noticed just yet. I've snuck up around him. I'm gonna take that point and this point up here. So I'll still have the 3-point advantage, and from here I make more mistakes. I had the 3-point advantage. You know, there's a lot of things I could have done here. I could have just pulled my flag off to take that one and sent my other 2 south and around. I hit this here because I still haven't recognized or haven't watched the map, so I've lost map awareness here. Yeah, he's taking the point down south. I don't know yet. I now realize, oh shit, the flag's not up here. Oh, it's down south. It's taking that point. Yeah. Now I'm going to get an opportunity here to take the 4 points. Another thing I don't do here is I could have used my my boost in here, taken the point a lot quicker. Instead, I slowly go in. And it's here I realize that my flag's taking a lot of damage, and if it takes much more damage, I'm going to get a morale loss on my 2 healthier ships one way or the other. He's very cleverly gone straight after the flag. Yeah. So again, you should really be watching your mistakes and trying to analyze and see where you've gone wrong. Yeah, I do see players get salty and get cancer and all this other nonsense. Guys, keep that for lol. If you want to be a child and throw tantrums, you know, keep that toxic nonsense for lol. I don't want you in the game. I'm sure most players don't want you in the game. Look at your mistakes. Yeah, if you lose to an opponent, look at your mistakes. Did they kite you? Did they, you know, how did they beat you? Yeah. This guy, not only did he play me really well, he used his fighters for good map awareness. I made mistakes by, you know, using my torpedoes too early, and he waited for me to use my torpedoes. He didn't freak out when I threw down the warp on him. He waited for me to use my torpedoes, and then I couldn't hit him up with the torpedoes. This is a really skilled Necron player, and he countered me perfectly. Then he jumped in, threw all his star pulses down. He knew that even if I rammed him, he was going to get the better of it because they're much stronger ships on paper compared to his ships. Here he starts pulling up. He uses his flagship to bait me here. Yeah, I'm like, ooh, flagship, and I very, very silly. Yeah, I chased the flagship without thinking. You know, well, he's going to have his other ships around him somewhere here. You know what I mean? But he uses the flag to kind of bait me in. And now he's using his fighters again to get map awareness. Now I bait in here. I'm like, all right, I want to take out this flag. Yeah, I need to take it out so he can't jump. And I was kind of expecting him to do that, but he had the others hidden, and he boom boom. Here we go. Really good. 360 surround. I didn't have the ability to go into brace for impact. I was trying to take out a couple of the escorts here and try and get a good barrage and take out his flag. But yeah, he was gone. The instant that happened, it was death. Now what I probably should have done here is I should have just pulled out hard, gone right and then gone south, yeah? Instead, I try to face off, which is very, very silly here. I should have kept moving, kept my stealth up, but I didn't. I got the escort just sitting there. I realized this in a second, and I sent him south to try and see if I can get... Again, you see he's using fighters, so I've been identified. My flag's been identified. Again, I don't set my point far enough, so I don't keep moving. I boost out, and then I stop moving. Another mistake. And he's got his fighters on me now, so now he's got map awareness. My stealth isn't worth shit now, because he's got his fighters on me. He knows exactly where I am. Instead of chasing the ship that he knows where I am, he knows my flag's up here, and boom, he's on it, yeah? And he's chasing it down, and he knows as soon as he takes out this flag, my morale has a minus 50. You take out that flag, I've already lost one of my cruisers. Here I do something very silly. I think at this phase I'm just like, you know, I'm knackered. You really got to try and not give up, guys. Don't give up to the fat lady things. I can't tell you how many games I've gone, you could have won that, you know, or you know, there was opportunity there for you to win it. You've just given up, yeah? And this was a give up for me. Like at that point I knew I was surrounded and taking too much damage, but before that I could have gotten out of it. Here I do the same thing. I'm like, oh, I'm down. I'm gone.
The enemy has seized a strategic area.
How may I serve? Fear our onset. Coming about! Let the engines scream.
I tell you what, the Necrons are a lot tougher now since they've brung down the
enemy is close to victory by
the timer on their warp jumps, or not their warp jumps, their inertia drive or whatever it is. They are a lot tougher. So anyway, that's it, guys. That's it for this episode. As always, make sure you hit the like button, smash it for me. If you're new around here, check out the subscribe, and that's it. As always, check the links for the Twitch where I stream live. And thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed, and do leave some comments down below. Thank you very much. See you guys. Bye.